If you want to start your own events company, I would say, I'm going to give you advice about my own story. I read a book once which was hugely helpful for me. I've been somewhat of a serial entrepreneur in my life. For a person of my age, I've sort of acted a bit like a millennial. I've moved from industry to industry, from job to job. And one book that's really helped me is a book called the EMyth by Michael Gerber. And the reason I found it so helpful is that it's about a lady who wants to start a pie shop because she's brilliant at making pies. But what happens when you start a business is that you are going to suddenly become a lawyer, an accountant, a HR executive. You're going to become head of marketing. You're going to become head of PR. You're going to learn and have to manage a whole load of disciplines that are away from the reason you've started your business. So I found that reading that book was a real, almost life lesson. And I would actually advise anyone, although it sounds so boring, just to do that little bit of personal planning. If I'm going to start a business, how should I go about this? I think next I would talk to people who've done it. Maybe even find yourself a mentor. When I started a business many years ago, I did a 6-month course called Firm Start, where for the first 6 months of me trying to get my business off the ground, I could go to a place where I could talk to people about the challenges I was facing. And it was really nice to have that support group around me. They could only talk to you in general principles. They didn't actually know very much about the business that I was trying to start. But it was really good just to have people I could go to. And if you can't find somewhere that's a structural, educational type environment, then perhaps find a mentor, somebody who has started up a business who you can at least every now and again go and talk to, because believe me, they will have been through the same pains that you will go through when you start your business. Next, I would say, and maybe this is the first thing that you should do, because there's no particular order to all of this. But you need to choose the market that you're going into, and you need to know what is the differentiating factor about the business that you're about to start. What need is it that you are about to serve? Because the one thing that's going to be of critical importance to you is your customers. So you need to distill down, what is the business that I'm going to start? Who am I going to help? And how am I going to help them? And you almost need to boil that down into one succinct little phrase, because lots of people are going to come up to you and say, what is it that you do? And you need to be able to tell them in one line what you do so that they absolutely remember it. I remember, if you want to take an example, Avis. Avis say that they rent cars and vans without drivers. Brilliant. In one sentence, a massive business like Avis have described their business. So there we are. Decide what business you're going to go into and learn how to describe it succinctly and in an exciting way for those that ask you the question. And then that old thing about 80-20. Yeah, 80% planning, 20% execution, and that whole thing about inspiration versus perspiration. You do need to plan it. You do need to sit down and put a business plan together. You need to think through how you're going to finance your business. This is so critically important. When I started my first business, I didn't really even do any of this. I didn't have a business plan. I didn't have a cash flow forecast. I didn't really know where the money was going to come from. I think I was 21 when I started my first business, and someone offered me an office in Piccadilly Circus because they were moving out and the rent was quite cheap, and they said, would you like it? And I said, yeah, I'll have that. And I remember on my first day I went in and there was a desk and there was a chair, and I sat there and thought, oh, this is good. I wonder what I'm going to do. Well, I tell you what, I'm advising all of you not to do that. So have some idea of what business you're going to go into. Have that business plan. There's so many things online now that will help you to template how to think through your business. And that whole thing about where are you going to get your money from? Even if you go into the events business as an example, there are going to be some infrastructure costs. There's going to be simple things like, where are you going to run your business from? Are you going to have to pay a small amount of rent to get an office, or are you going to work from home? What technology do you need to run your business on? Do you need licensing softwares? Do you need to take out an insurance policy? Do you need to pay for things that you're going to need to do for your first event? Are you going to need to hire a venue? Unfortunately, in business, the money usually flows out before it flows in. So just remember that tidal flow, and you need to think, right, what happens if this becomes successful? What happens if I get commissioned to run 3, 4 or 5 events quite quickly? Now the tide is flowing out quite fast before it flows back in. And that old adage about cash is king is so true, because many brilliant businesses sink just because they don't have the cash to get them through the early stages to prove that they are a viable business. There's many ways of structuring a business, and I don't think in a short video that I can actually advise you whether to go to be a sole trader, to be in a partnership, to be a limited company. The route that I've taken in my current business is that I found 2 business partners. We equally invested in the business, and actually I'm the only one working in it. But I found them to be of great support when I need to ask them questions. I know I've got someone to turn to. After 1 year of running our business, we then went out to shareholders to get some extra money in to grow the business. And please don't be frightened of terminology like capital. That's just cash. And don't be frightened of terminology like shareholders. That's just people that believe in you, and you just give them a little bit of your business in return for a little bit of their cash. So start getting used to this sort of business terminology. You know, it wouldn't do any harm if you find out where there's a local business school, and for a few weeks go and attend an evening class or something like that. Just get rid of all of the mystery about running businesses, because it's quite fun once you get into it. There's many challenges along the way, but you do need to just familiarize yourself with all the terminology. So there we are. There's a few tips if you want to get into running events, or if you want to get into running a pie shop or any other business, because the principles are the same. But my last thing, and this is so important, if you've got it in you and it's gnawing away at you, do it.